Joining me right now is former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, also a Fox News contributor. Secretary, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you so much for being here. We're waiting on this launch out of the Afghanistan. We're looking at the pictures of the Afghanistan base while we await the launch of the Virgin Galactic. Your thoughts on all of this? I know that you and President Trump created the first space team, the first new military arm since 1947.
So it's exciting to see what's happening this morning. I wish them well. I hope everybody gets up and gets back and does so safely. What's really going on here is to see American innovation, private sector at work. This is all good stuff, creativity. I'm sure they'll learn a lot from their continued efforts, not just his company, but others who will come compete for space tourism and to continue to expand the limits of man's knowledge. That's all good stuff. The really important things that are happening in space are about American national security, and we worked hard on that, not only creating the Space Force, but building out intelligence capabilities and all the tools that America will need in space to be able to defend itself in the next century.
And now we see our troops coming home by August 31st. I want to get your take on how President Biden is approaching this. Initially, a September 11th deadline. Now he is taking the troops home. It's not how that he's leaving, but how he's doing it. The U.S. abandoning its biggest airfield in the country in the dead of night without notifying the base's new Afghan commander. Your reaction?
Well, Maria, you hit it on the head. Our mission was twofold. The president gave me two pieces to the puzzle. One was to get our kids home. This is the right thing to do. We worked diligently to do that. We went from 10, 12, 14,000 down to just a fraction of that. But importantly, we had a diplomatic mission there, and that diplomatic mission was to make sure that America was never attacked from Afghanistan again. And so that was the work. I met many times with Mullah Baradar and his team of the Taliban, trying to convince them the right path forward. To move this date around is an odd thing, it seems to me. Maybe it's just they moved out faster. That's all fine. But the devil's in the details. You have to get this right. You have to have the intelligence capabilities. President Trump made clear. He spoke with the Taliban a couple times as well. He made clear to them, if you kill an American, there will be an enormous cost. We will do whatever it takes. We'll come back in with the forces we need to come back in with. And it was clear from the moment we began our conversations with the Taliban in a serious way. We didn't have a single American killed. Indeed, there was only a single attack on American. It looks like it was a rogue actor. We had the policy right. It's one thing to get out. It's how you do it, how you execute it, and how you implement our global counterterrorism mission in the aftermath of that departure that will make all the difference in whether this ends up being something that President Biden can say, yep, he did it well.
So Biden says that he's going to go with his gut despite military opposition on his plans and credible warnings, apparently, according to the military, that Kabul could fall within a few months. Tell me your thoughts on what happens now as we now understand that China is waiting in the wings to go into Afghanistan.
Well, Maria, look, the civilians are in charge, and President Trump had the same kind of resistance from the military as well to reducing our footprint in Afghanistan. It was ultimately his decision as the leader to begin this march towards having our fewer troops there in Afghanistan. It's all about how you execute it. Your point about the Chinese is well taken. Frankly, we provided security for the Chinese for 20 years. Today, there's fewer than 200 al-Qaeda there. That benefits the Chinese enormously. Their interests in Afghanistan are commercial. They are loath to commit their own troops, I expect. And so Afghanistan needs to begin to stand up on its own. I saw some clips last night of fighting age males who were saying, it's really unsafe, I need to get out. When I see that, Maria, the Afghan people need to decide their nation is worth fighting for and making the case. They need to create a political system and political institutions. You've got Afghan leaders with beautiful homes all over the Middle East and Europe. There's corruption everywhere. It's time for the Afghan people to do the hard work, the heavy lifting, and demand that they push back against the Taliban, not just militarily, but politically, exercise their own rights, secure their own freedom. We provided all the resources the Afghan National Security Forces could possibly ever have dreamed of and all the training over 2 decades. It's time to come back, and it's time to make sure that we do this right with few American troops and making sure that we're never attacked from this place again.
Well, look, this offers China a portal for the Chinese Communist Party to access the Arabian Sea via Iran, Pakistan. It may very well become an even more dangerous neighborhood, if you will. I want to get your thoughts on what has taken place regarding China this last 2 weeks as the CCP celebrates its 100th-year anniversary, and Xi Jinping said that China's enemies will have their heads cracked and bleeding in any future conflict, and he vowed to take Taiwan back. Your thoughts in where we are with China, as I am yet to see any policy out of the Biden administration that has any teeth against the CCP.
Maria, I haven't seen it either. I truly hope that the Biden administration will pick up the cudgel where the Trump administration left off. After 50 years of the idea of constructive engagement, that we could just sell some more trinkets or manage some Chinese wealth or allow them to come operate here inside America, that they'd get political freedoms. This just failed. The Trump administration turned this around. We began to protect American jobs and create American technology and military force posture in a way that would push back against the very language you saw from Xi Jinping. He is serious about this. We shouldn't take that as bluster. The Chinese Communist Party presents the single greatest threat to the United States of America from external forces, bar none. We need to mount a sustained, serious campaign to push back against them. This is doable. We've done it with the Soviet Union. We know exactly how to build coalitions around the world. We did it with the Indians, with the Japanese, with the Australians, our good friends and allies. We were beginning to put together a coalition to protect the West. We don't want to live in a world dominated by the Chinese Communist Party. And when you hear Xi Jinping make threats like that, threats to the people on Taiwan, this requires resolve, strength, deterrence from America, and American leadership has to be there. And I hope President Biden will take that up.
Yeah, but you have to wonder if, in fact, the U.S. is there should Xi Jinping invade Taiwan. Look at the response as he invaded Hong Kong and started throwing everybody in jail. The freedom fighters are now in jail. Just this week, Communist China seized control of Britain's largest microchip factory. And they also, the Biden administration announced that more companies will be added to the blacklist over the Xinjiang disaster, where they have Uyghurs locked up. And yet a lot of people are questioning that blacklist, because while he's putting some companies on the blacklist, the companies that are actually doing anything and the subsidiaries of those companies are not on that list. What do you make of these moves this week from the CCP?
Yes, the CCP is serious. The moves that you described there this past week are serious. There was actions that we saw disclosed about how they're continuing to cover up for the virus as well. We've seen the work they're doing with genetics. They're doing testing on mothers who are pregnant. They're collecting their DNA samples. This is a machine. This is a machine that is intent on dominating the world in technology and commerce and militarily. The responses have to be equally serious. I saw the blacklist that you're referring to. It's pretty technical. It's hard to tell exactly what's in it and what's not. But in the end, if it doesn't impact a Chinese Communist Party company, if it doesn't impact their capacity to put Americans at risk, then putting their name on a piece of paper is not of any value. They need to do more. The administration needs to do more than just respond to the genocide that we declared. They need to begin to confront them in a serious way and impose real costs on a Communist Party that celebrated its 100th anniversary. And if they're able to celebrate their 200th anniversary, we'll live in a very, very different world.
Very, very different world, as corporate America is yet to get the memo. 2 weeks ago, we heard the CEO of Nike say that Nike is of China and for China. Pretty extraordinary stuff. Secretary Pompeo, it's always a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Maria. Have a good day.